Okay, in this video we are going to briefly summarize different opinions among the Meforshim in trying to understand why Paro felt this need to enslave the Jewish people, and in particular, what his fear was when he uttered the words Ve'ala min haaretz. You see, if you look at Paro's concerns, we understand the beginning of what he notices. He notices in Pasuk Tet, Hine am b'nei Yisrael rav va'atzum mimenu. There's too many of them, so we get that he's concerned about a sudden population explosion among b'nei Yisrael. We further get he's concerned about their loyalty in a time of war, because he mentions over here tikrana milchama v'nosaf gamhu al sonenu, that these Hebrews, these Israelites, may join other sonim, other people who hate Egypt, in a time of war. V'nilcham banu, and they'll fight us. But then what does he mean va'ala min haaretz? Literally, that would mean they'll fight us. Ve'ala min haaretz, Bnei Israel will go up from the land of Egypt. But logically, that doesn't make so much sense to be a concern for Paro, because here Paro is concerned that there are too many Bnei Israel in his country. He's concerned that they're not loyal and would side with an enemy in a time of war. So he should be happy if they would leave his country. If you think there are too many Jews in your country, if you think they're not good Egyptian citizens, then let them go. Why do you care if they would leave? And so Rashi seems a little troubled by this when Rashi utters the words al korchenu, which means against our will. He says, we're worried that Bnei Israel will leave against our will. But still, that begs the question, why is it against our will? Why is it al korchenu? Why would Paro want to hold them back from leaving if he hates them so much? And so we see the subsequent Meforshim after Rashi try to give reasons why Egypt would be concerned about Bnei Israel leaving. Rashi himself apparently was bothered by this and didn't have such an explanation that fully satisfied him, and so he decides to then cite an alternative interpretation from the Midrash. He says, Rabotenu Darshu, our rabbis interpreted this, Ka'adam shemekalel atzmo v'toleh kilelato b'chavero. According to Chazal, Paro is like somebody who's basically saying something bad about himself, literally cursing himself, but hanging the curse, toleh means to hang, hanging the curse on someone else. It's as if Paro said, I'm worried va'alinu, that we, that nu at the end means us, we the Egyptians will go up from the land, vehem, and they, Bnei Israel, yirashuha, they will inherit the land. So according to this Rabotenu Darshu, this midrash that Rashi cites, Paro's real concern is that in a time of war, Bnei Israel will join up, will be added on to our enemies, and Bnei Israel will fight against us, and not Ve'ala, not he, it, meaning the nation of Israel, will go up from Egypt, but Paro really meant to say Ve'alinu, we, the people of Egypt, will be forced to get up and leave our own country. So why didn't Paro just come out and say that? So that's why Rashi quotes this medrash saying it's like someone who curses himself but hangs the curse on someone else. In cultures where people really value the spoken word, they don't like to say things. Sometimes we call this an ayin hara in Judaism. You don't want to say something where you're going to jinx yourself. There's a phrase in Hebrew, al tiftach peh satan. Don't open up your mouth for the Satan to say something about you. So don't say, oh, maybe we'll get thrown out of Egypt, because then the Satan will tell God, oh, they're thinking about leaving Egypt themselves. Maybe they should get thrown out. And so, this midrash, I think, in this case, Rashi is citing the midrash because he feels his own pshat is unsatisfactory. Because he's not satisfied with the idea that Egypt is scared that we'll be forced to release Bnei Israel, since after all, they hate Bnei Israel. They should want to kick Bnei Israel out. Therefore, the midrash says that wasn't the real concern. Paro said, I'm scared Bnei Israel will have to leave, and what he really meant is, I'm scared we Egyptians will have to leave. We Egyptians will get thrown out when Bnei Israel rise up against us by joining with our other enemies. But I'm so scared of that, I don't even want to say the words, Bnei Israel might throw us out. Subsequent Meforshim who are looking for the simple meaning of the text, didn't want to rely on this medrash because at the end of the day, the word in the pasuk is ve'ala, not ve'alinu. The word in the pasuk says he's scared Bnei Israel would leave, not Egypt. And so they tried to explain why Paroh would be so concerned about Bnei Israel leaving. So we'll start with Rashi's own grandson, Rashbam. So he says the concern is ve'ala min ha'aretz, Bnei Israel will leave the land, la'shuv al eretz avotehem, to return to the land of their forefathers, the land of Canaan, what's known today as Eretz Yisrael. And why is that a problem? We hate them. We should want to kick them out. Says Rashbam, Lo tov lanu la'abed avadenu. It's not good for us to lose our slaves. If Bnei Israel, who are our slaves, leave, karulei malchuta ketia, people will call us, that literally means in Aramaic, the cut short kingdom, the kingdom that somehow was like partially chopped off or lopped off. They'll say, what a pathetic kingdom. They had all these slaves who just got up and left. So logically, we understand Rashbam's concern that somehow it will make Egypt look bad if Bnei Israel leave. But there's one obvious logical problem with Rashbam's argument. Rashbam is saying it's going to make our kingdom look bad if our slaves leave. But are they slaves yet? Seemingly not. Seemingly, the next couple of psukim begin telling us in the next pasuk, in pasuk Yud Aleph, Paroh begins enslaving them. So what does Rashbam mean? We're scared that we're going to lose our slaves. They're not his slaves yet. So some of you suggested in class, which I think is a reasonable, possible explanation, that maybe Rashbam doesn't literally mean slaves here. Maybe he means like our lower class or second class citizens. These Jews who we frown upon, they're still a part of our country, even though we don't like them. And if a huge chunk of the country's population gets up and leaves, that looks bad, even if it's the part of the population that's the lower class, the sort of inferior second-class people. And so maybe in that sense, Paroh is saying, look, I'm worried, now that there's so many Jews, that Bnei Israel are rav atzum mimenu, even though they're like the slave-level class, the lower level, the lowlifes of society, from my perspective, it still looks bad if they leave. I want to suggest an alternative way to interpret Rashbam, which some of you also brought up in class. And what I like about what I'm going to suggest now is that there's a good methodological point behind this. What we're going to do is we're going to look, and somebody named Ri Bechor Shor, this stands for Rabbi Yosef Bechor Shor. He was Rabbi Yosef of a place known as Orléans in France, spelled the same way as New Orleans. New Orleans, Louisiana, is named after Old Orleans, the original Orleans in France, but because it's French, even though it's spelled that way, it's pronounced Orléans. It's not pronounced Orleans. So Bechor Shor comes from Orléans, which is in northern France. He lived one generation after Rashbam. He's one of the Balei Tosfot. He's sometimes quoted in Tosfot with a Hebrew spelling of this name. So I'll just spell it out for you. Right, in English or French, it's spelled this way. That's Orléans. In Tosfot, sometimes you'll see somebody known as Ri, Rabbeinu Yosef, or looks like Orleanish or something like that. But again, it's Orléans in French. So Rabbi Yosef Orléans, Rabbi Yosef Bechor Shor, is one of the Balei Tosfot, one generation after Rashbam. In essence, he's a student of Rashi's grandson, a student of Rashbam, in matters of Gemara, a student of Rabbeinu Tam. So this is someone who's read Rashbam's commentary. He likely had met Rashbam personally, and so if you see how he interprets the pasuk, it can give us some insight into Rashbam's own view potentially. So he says, what are we concerned about? Yitchabru im sonenu, Bnei Israel yitchabru, they're going to become the chaver, the friend, the ally of our enemies. V'nilcham banu, they'll fight us. V'ala min haaretz, yelchu lahem, they're going to leave. And why is that so bad? V'nafsid am gadol kazeh, we're going to lose this large, great nation, great in the sense of big. He doesn't mean great like make America great again, like that idea that of giving it glory, because he dislikes them. He means great in the sense of big. We're going to lose this big nation. Let's read that very carefully. Literally, they're worthy, or it's possible, it could be that we could enslave them in a time of need. In other words, according to Bechor Shor is basically saying the same thing as Rashbam. We're afraid we're going to lose our slaves. But he's very careful. He doesn't call them slaves. He calls them people with the potential to be enslaved. Ru'uyin lihishtabed. Bishat hatzorech, right? In a time of need. Meaning, if we're... Paroh, Bechor Shor, I don't know if he's saying this is what Rashbam meant, or he, being a student of Rashbam, is giving his own formulation that's trying to improve upon the flaw in Rashbam's point. So Rashbam said Paroh was scared to lose his slaves. Bechor Shor, either interpreting Rashbam or trying to adapt Rashbam a little bit, says Paroh is scared of losing his potential slaves, Ru'uyin lihishtabed behem. And he stresses these are potential slaves in a time of need. In other words, right now, Paroh knows he doesn't need slaves. He knows he has no use for these people right